I will be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all of the difference. Buckle up and get ready now to ride the strange train with us down the road less traveled. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your humble host, Mr. Dennis Carroll, and this is The Road Less Traveled. And this is our other humble host, Mr. Gerald Fountain. Good
Hi,
evening,
everybody.
sir.
Hello.
Uh, Well, we're on the dark side of Monday, finally. Took us a
Yeah.
while to get there. But here we are, heading for hump day, which is coming up a couple of days here. Checking out the chat room. We've got Mr. Blazer. Hello, Blazer. Somebody named Midwest Night Watchers. And we also have some other person named Shiro. Hello, Shiro. Good to have you all here, Wizard Moon. Somebody's gonna have to make a video or something on Wizard Moon sometime. That is a great name. That's a great
Yeah.
name. It's a great story there. So write a poem about it or something. Okay, let's see who else we got coming in, checking in with us. Little Kilroy. Hello. Kilroy was here. Yep. Catsaphras. Okay, I like that name. That's pretty good. Catsaphras. That's a little. That shows imagination right there.
Yep.
And Kathleen. Hello. Tony. Hello. Dragonfly. And they're starting to rack up here, Joe.
Yeah. Welcome in, everybody.
Hell yeah. You want to tell everybody what our subject is tonight?
Well, tonight we got an interesting subject. We've done stone spheres all across the world and Costa Rica, and tonight we're doing silver metal spheres, and particularly the one with the Betts family in Florida.
Look out. Now, there's one heading for your head there, girl.
Oh boy.
All right. Yeah, this is an interesting subject. There's all kind of weird stuff falling out of the sky and being seen in the sky overhead. You know, here's the thing about it. I'm gonna say this before we get started, but I like your catchphrase. Keep looking up, and we need to keep looking up because we're missing a lot of stuff here. Okay, we're missing out on some stuff by not looking up. Unfortunately, we are glued to a phone in our hands, looking at cell phones all the time. We seldom look up, and we look at anything actually.
Right.
So we need to start looking up, and you better watch out because something might be coming down on you.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, you'd be surprised, how fast stuff zips across the sky or goes. I mean, you got to be in the right place, the right time to see it, and you got to be paying attention.
Well, since I was a kid, Gerald, I have been fascinated by the sky. I love to look at the sky. I'm big into this, astronomy and all that stuff. I'm an amateur astronomer. I don't get to do as much as I used to, but I love, going out with a telescope, get away from the lights, see the things in the universe and the things in the sky. I love to watch the, meteorite shower, the meteor showers, and all this stuff that goes on, and the planetary alignments, and all that's fascinating. Comets, and all this other stuff that people, you're missing out on a lot if you don't look at them. You
Right.
really are missing out on a lot of action.
Yeah, I took astronomy in college, and we had it here at the Lakeview Planetarium here in Peoria, Illinois, and so our professor was actually the main director there at Lakeview, and we got to go to the planetarium all the time for our workshops and our lab projects. I think they used us as cheap labor to clean all the equipment and
Oh yeah.
But we got a class of 10 or 12 people, got to sit.
You were an
That huge.
astronomy geek.
Yeah. I mean,
There
10
you
or
go.
12 of us got to sit in that whole auditorium and just watch whatever. We
Mhm.
got to see all the constellations, all the planets that most people didn't get to see because we could ask them questions and zoom in on stuff, and it was fun.
That's a sweet job right there, man. Definitely. And here's the interesting thing. I used to have my own planetarium one time. That's the night sky, and I had it in my house one time. Up on the ceiling. I don't know if you ever had one of those, but I had one. And finally it broke. I need to buy another one day. But anyway, I love to lay on the bed looking up at this.
Yep.
It was like being outside, not being outside.
Those were pretty
But
popular. That they had the balls that were like a night light, and they shined all the constellations and stars on your ceiling. They got really nice ones now. They're digital and HD. It's oh my gosh.
I just never bought. That was many years back, and I said I need to replace that one day. I mean, it finally died on me, and something light burnout end or whatever. I said I need another one, and they're making them much better now. Absolutely, I've seen some on Amazon that have been tempted.
Yeah.
To get one. I love to do that though. That's neat. But I've always enjoyed looking up at the stars and everything, what goes on in the sky, and doing sky watches and looking for UFOs and yeah. And here's another thing that people don't. Before we get into the spheres here, another thing that people don't realize. I believe there's a whole world above us. I think there's some things that are living in the atmosphere. You hear so much about these, sky rays, and of course you've had some of those things on your camera, the sky rods.
Yes.
They call them. I think there's a whole lot of stuff going on up there that we don't really realize or see, and it may be unseeable in our light spectrum, kind of a thing.
Right.
I'm sure it's there.
I think that's the only reason we're catching them, because our cameras have IR. There's been a couple of times we've seen it without the IR on, but majority of it is always with the IR.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's definitely beyond our spectrum.
Well, now some of these things can be brushed aside as being insects, but there's something else going on here that we've talked about this before, but there's something else definitely going on other than insects.
Right.
In that respect. But anyway, I think there's a whole lot of stuff. And these spheres maybe I don't know. Here's my take on them, okay? And then I'm just gonna throw this in. We'll open discussion on it, okay? I think some of these spheres that they talk about, and I have seen one my own self in the sky, or some kind of, I just don't know. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say very much like some kind of alien probes of some sort,
right?
What I saw, and then I'm gonna throw this out for you. What I saw, and I was just looking up. I wasn't looking for anything. Okay, this was accidental. That's what happens with the paranormal and weird stuff. It's always accidental. Okay, but I just stepped out on my porch, and I didn't have a top on the porch. Okay, it was just a porch, a little platform, I stepped out and I was just kind of looking up, how you kind of look up, and it was like the sky was still light. It was but it was late afternoon, okay? And I looked up, Gerald, and this ball is going overhead, and it's way up. It's way up high, but it's not satellite high. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep.
This thing is high. I can see it. And it looks like, this is what it looks like. It looks like a segmented soccer ball type thing. You know how you remember the old soccer balls used to have segments in them? This is the way this thing looked, although it didn't look like a soccer ball. But I mean, it was segmented like that. And it was tumbling, incredibly fast. It was tumbling, and then it was also going across, the sky.
Yep.
And that's one of the weirdest things I ever seen. I said, what the heck is that? Because it was not a satellite. I know what satellites look like and all this stuff. This one, and it was too low for a satellite. Satellites would not exist in the lower atmosphere like that. They eventually fall. We know what I'm talking about. Anyway, what the heck was that? You know, and it had look, and the only thing I can tell you, it was purplish looking. It had sort of a purplish glow like to it, but not real bright. You understand? Wasn't real bright, but it had sort of a faint purplish glow to it. And one other thing, it looked like, I can't say for sure, okay, because it was so fast. It looked like it had some kind of markings on it.
Oh yeah.
You tell me what the heck that was. I don't know.
I have no idea. I mean, I'm assuming that it's like you said, drones or probes. I mean, because they're usually metallic and they're usually a silver or light metallic, but they do have sometimes emit some kind of light to them. So I don't know.
I'll tell you what, Gerald, if we have alien visitation, and that would not surprise me, okay? I mean, I'm not saying that's off the table. I know there's got to be other life out there than us. You know, I know that without a doubt. That's a probability. But if they are interested in us, it makes sense that they would keep sort of, watching us with probes. They would have to use probes. They can't be omniscient and be everywhere and see everything. But if they want to check on us and they're so darn curious about us, whatever the situation is, they're going to definitely use some type of probes. And, I have read many cases where people say they've actually seen these things in cities and stuff. These metal-like spheres moving in the moving in the air, and they'll be like, maybe a couple of stories up, that high. They'll see these things, and they've even been seen lower than that. In places like New York and Chicago have reported these things. L.A., a lot of the big cities, they say they have seen these things floating in the air.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have some pictures of stuff like that. I figured we'd start the Betts family and then get into those.
Mm-hmm. That's wild. That's really wild stuff. So without a doubt, they would have to utilize something like that. If they're that curious and they want to find out things, or just to keep an eye on us or whatever,
Right.
And it's not enough your government's probably watching you, and I'm sure they are. Definitely, without a doubt, that goes on. You got somebody else watching it. That's the way it goes.
That just shows you how special we are. I mean, we're being watched by extraterrestrials and our own government, so they're really curious, and that just shows you how powerful, how great we are as a human race.
Well, that's what I said. You're on a podcast the other night. I forget whose podcast. I do some podcasts. I can't keep up with them, but it's one somebody's podcast. I said something about Bigfoot, and it is a known fact. Bigfoot is very curious of people. They watch them, they listen to them. I believe, can imitate human voices when they want to. I know they can imitate bird calls,
right,
and animal sounds. They can certainly do that, and they could mimic your own voice, very much like parrots do, and macaws do. They can actually repeat that. So yeah, that's without a doubt. They're very curious of us.
Yep.
And for one reason why they would be very curious makes a lot of sense, and that is a survival tactic. You gotta, if you come in the woods, whether you got a gun or not, I'm gonna watch you, buddy, because you up to something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that
you're not from around here.
That benefits me to know what you're up to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like a neighborhood watch for cryptids or the forest. Like, well, you're not from around here. Why are you in our neighborhood?
Oh yeah, they tracking you from 3 miles away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They know when you come in there. They know. I think a lot of times they exactly know what intent you have too. I think they're picking up on that, and definitely aliens would want to know that about us. They would be very curious about us.
Absolutely.
Find out what we're up to and all this stuff. And here's one more thing. I don't know if you heard about this, but it came out on the news the other day. They talk about disclosure. I hear that word a lot, disclosure. I'm sorry, folks. You're never going to get the real disclosure here, okay? But that's just the way that's going to go. They may give you some distractions, but they're not going to give you true disclosure. But guess what? They come out one day in the Pentagon and said there's absolutely no evidence of any type of alien presence on this planet. And the next day you find out that they've got special operations going up to track UFOs.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And maybe they need to track some of these metal spheres that we're going to talk about tonight. What do you think about those? I mean, what's your own opinion, having read about some of these metal spheres? What do you think is going on with that?
I think just like what you said, and we've both said it, I think it's drones or orbs or some kind of device to keep track and do surveys and stuff. But then there's also space junk. And I got pictures of that so you can see what the difference between a metal ball space junk and what this Betts family found. And there's other pictures of orbs and stuff that I have to show us, everybody. And so we'll get into that about the difference between them. But me personally, the ones that are moving in the sky, I think they're collecting data and they're drones.
You know, Gerald, I'll say this: we are standing tonight on the brink of World War III. Okay, and without doubt, we probably are already in World War III, and we just don't know about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But anyway, let me say this: drones have completely revolutionized warfare. Modern warfare has been completely revolutionized by drone warfare. Okay. And it came out the other day that the FAA has authorized Amazon to use drones now to deliver. So be careful, you may get hit by a package from Amazon, okay? But they're gonna have drones delivering your stuff in the future, okay? And that includes, hey, this is the beginning and not the end of that, because then they're gonna have things like DoorDash and some of these other things delivering by drone, okay? Pizza Hut and Domino's is going to bring your pizza by drone. It makes sense, okay? Because everything is going robotic. And what is a drone, Gerald? It is a what? It's simply nothing but a flying robot.
Yep.
That's what it is. And here's the thing about these spheres that in this family, and you're going to tell the story in a minute about this family, but this could happen to anybody, okay? I mean, this could happen to anyone. And now it's more likely that we're going to interact with something like that. But go ahead and tell the story about this family. It's very interesting.
Well, the Betts family is from Fort George Island in Florida. And their family has a lot of forest and woods that they harvest lumber. And that was their main living, from their fathers and grandfathers. And this couple, Terry, and I'll bring up some pictures as I talk also. Mm. But this Terry Betts and his wife, they would go for walks, obviously like anybody would. And on their property, when you have woods and trails and stuff, and they just happened upon this silver ball. Mm-hmm. Try to make it as big as I can.
Oh yeah, that thing is about bowling ball size, right?
Yeah, so it's just around 8 inches and 22 pounds, I guess, is what they ended up weighing it and getting the data off of it. So there was a forest fire, evidently, a little burn off of some of the woods that on the property they owned. And when they were out there checking it out and going for their walk, they found this silver ball. And they kind of messed with it a little bit and didn't think nothing of it. And Terry, the father there, decided to bring it back with them. And it wasn't nothing spectacular about it. They just thought it was a cool looking object that they found. Mm-hmm. And he set it on like his windowsill with other collectibles that he's found, out in the woods or whatever. Then he was playing guitar with a buddy one night, and he started hearing this humming noise. And he couldn't figure out where the humming noise would come from. And then it quit for a while because they quit playing guitars and they started back up and they started hearing it again just a little bit louder. So Terry walked around his house or the room that they were in trying to figure out where it was coming from, and it was coming from this silver ball. So it was making a noise or vibrating from the vibration of the guitar.
So it was reacting to sound, huh?
Yep.
That's amazing. Sound, of course, plays a very intricate part in our universe. Okay, definitely. And, I'd have to wonder if something like that would be so very sensitive to vibrations.
Right. So it started emanating this hum, and eventually they started messing with it, goofing around with it. And he put it on the floor one day and it started moving in a pattern around the room, almost kind of like, our Roombas, those robot vacuums. It was kind of doing that. It was kind of checking out the room, and it wouldn't hit the furniture, but it would stop before it hit it, and it's kind of like mapping out the room.
Something like a Roombas, they used to call them, the vacuums, they do that.
Right. Yeah, those robotic vacuums. And they kept playing with it. And they ended up putting it on a table, which you can see here, that round table with the glass top.
Mm-hmm.
The wife and the husband, and the wife's name is Jerry, by the way. So it's Terry and Jerry. But they put it on this table, and it would start moving around on the table, but it wouldn't go off on the edge. You remember those toys you'd get where it'd know where to find the edge and it'd back up and move the other way? That's what this ball would do. It would circle the table, it'd go to the edge, and it'd go back to the center. Well, they started playing with it, and they started tilting the table, trying to get to go off the edge, and it never would.
So that thing sort of was picking up on dimensional depth.
Yeah, so it found the edges of the table, and I don't know if it was kind of like a program or some kind of sentience to it that it knew, okay, if I fall off this edge, I could get damaged or hurt, or who knows what it was all about.
That kind of reminds me of some of these science fiction stories when they talk about these things, that they were given depth perception and given the ability, the robots were given the ability to know dimensional shapes and sizes, up, down, sideways, and all that. That's interesting, because something like that would definitely be very alien-like in my book. Yeah.
So they ended up experimenting with this, and even their kid there was able to, it was safe evidently to touch, and because it didn't shock you or hurt you or anything. So let's see if I'll make that bigger. So the kid was able to play with it on the table and do little experiments and have fun with it. Well, eventually, go ahead, Dennis.
This thing is completely, just completely bare of anything. No signs of any kind of seam or anything on it. It is completely shapeless. That's amazing. Yeah. You could look at something like that. Usually, most of the time, you'll see a seam in it. It has to have a seam. And if you can't find a seam in something like that, it's either been smoothed out or it's a different way that's been manufactured. You know what I'm saying?
If we manufactured it, it would definitely have a seam. And I got a better picture, a closer up picture of it.
That's something else. I would love to see that myself. I'd love to get a close up look at that. It doesn't look manufactured the way we would, like you said, we would manufacture something.
Right. Yeah, they said it's perfectly smooth. Of course, it's been beat up a little bit and it has little dings evidently, but they said it takes a long time to hurt this metal, to leave marks on it. So the government got involved and came and took it
Uh-oh.
for a while, and the Betts family had the government sign a contract. And I can't imagine the government would ever sign a contract, but they promised that they would bring it back to them after the experiments, as long
Mhm.
as it was safe for the family, which that kind of gave the government an out to keep it, but they did end up bringing it back to them.
I wonder if it was the real one that they brought back.
I don't know. That's another good question.
Yeah.
So it
But we Mhm.
wasn't long after that, that there was it became national news and papers all across the US, but starting in a little town first. They're in Florida. They had a little gazette, but it made the rounds about this oddball, or this bizarre sphere, and the government studying it. And it went through x-rays, it went through all kinds of tests. That's how they found out the exact weight, the exact size of it, but they could not figure out what it was and why it moved. It seemed like there was something inside of it they figured out, but they couldn't figure out what it was or why it was able to move and sense edges and stuff like that on the table.
That's very strange. That's very bizarre. And it has very alien like things about it. Absolutely. Did they ever do an actual metal test on it to tell what kind of metal?
They said on the metal, they were having a hard time distinguishing what it was, but they came up with so on like a periodic table, it was like 140. So it was above anything natural from the earth, they determined.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting right there. It kind of tells a little bit of the story of what this thing may actually be. Um, does this family still have that, or what happened to it? What's the story
I
on?
heard that they still have it. I don't know if the father and mother are still alive, because this happened in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Well, I heard something, and I did some research. I could not find this. Maybe I was looking in the wrong places. But I remember hearing a story. Now, there was one story about a man who was actually killed by a meteorite in South America. I'm not talking about that. This was a story actually where something like this sphere crashed into a house, and it had properties very much like this. They talked about it vibrating like and stuff. That just kind of disappeared. I don't know if I want to say it was Venezuela. I'm not sure. Okay, exactly where it was, but I do remember hearing about that. And but it it kind of disappeared real quick. You know what I'm saying? It was told, and then you didn't hear any more about it. I just think maybe the government got a hold of it or whatever the situation is, but. That's the one bunch of people I would not turn over anything to. Absolutely, because that's something that's not going to come out good, no matter which way you look at it. But that's very interesting. I'd love to see that ball and see, and I'd like to ask them: do they think it's the original one? Do they still think it? They didn't get a
Right.
counterfeit or what? That's an interesting thing about it. But that's fascinating. But like I said, who knows what's going to come down to your roof one day? You never know, or come into your life.
So speaking of space junk, this guy, Paul D. Malley, or Maley, however you want to say his name, Maley.
Mm-hmm.
He, from the 1960s, he's a scientist or professor. He's collected space junk his whole life, or at least adult wise. And this is one of the spheres that he has collected. So you can see with this sphere that it has a hole in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like our silver ball. So some people are finding these objects, like you said, meteorites and stuff, but this is actually off of a satellite or some kind of equipment that was up in space. So and this was in the 60s, early 70s when this guy was collecting this stuff.
Well, Gerald, and I think it happened in Florida as well. There was a house hit here recently by space junk, and they determined it did come off of a satellite or something. And it actually went through the roof of this family's house, almost hit one of the kids in the house. And I think they was like thinking about a lawsuit against NASA or whatever. Last I heard of it, it kind of
Right.
and then kind of disappeared in the news. But that was an interesting thing. But here's another thing. I just have, just looking at that last picture you put up, that very much reminds me of those the big ball. We talked about this before. The giant balls that are found worldwide. Remember that?
Yes.
I just wonder if there's a connection with something like that.
Well, a lot of the big balls that, like we talked about before, that came from Costa Rica, they were all stone and perfectly smooth and round, but they were huge. I mean, they were bigger than a human. And then this is the same guy, that Paul D. Molly, that had this picture of a space junk that fell, and you can see that one has a seam, and it also has whether that was a rod or an axle going through the middle of it, so it'd spin, or something else that was mounted to it. I don't know, but that's usually what people find when you're talking about space junk.
That would be something like that would be on a spaceship or a satellite. Definitely. Look at that. You got it where we would have attached to something like that. And like I said before, there's a lot of this space junk coming down that people see and have found. I've heard of people finding these out in the woods in the national parks and finding parts like this. And sometimes, of course, you will find parts of airplanes. Basically when they're flying, maybe one of the hatches will come off or something. Hatch covers and stuff like that will actually come off of airplanes. But it's not that far fetched that something could not survive space, and I think that happens a lot more than we realize.
Yeah,
that it could be downright dangerous when you think about it. What are the odds of something hitting you?
So this is another silver one that somebody else found, and I believe this one was found in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you said, we've found them all over the U.S. They've been in Canada, they've been in Europe, they've been in Africa. I mean, Japan. They're finding them everywhere, and they're all different sizes.
That's interesting. But like we said earlier in the program, how some of these things may be connected to some type of alien probes. And maybe they fall, or maybe they just send them down for certain purposes we don't know. It's a lot of theory to it.
I mean, if they can fly through the air, I'm assuming that they could possibly fall either from damage or maybe miscommunication, kind of like our ships and stuff do. Once they lose their computers and stuff like that, they crash or fall. So, or maybe these were put on Earth, to travel the terrain and landscape. Because if it can go around that guy's room, it surely probably could roll until it gets stuck somewhere, like our rovers on Mars or the moon.
Then they could just like say they could be up for a certain amount of time and they crash them like that on purpose.
Could be.
That would be one way you would get rid of it. But here's another thing. What if some of these things are supposed to bury in the ground and do some kind of scientific test or something that way too? By burying itself in the ground.
Oh yeah. Wow, that's kind of scary to think about. Are they going to come back up on a later time or be used for something?
It is not that far fetched. You would use it as a scientific probe that way, because well, look what we do on Mars with the rovers and all that stuff, and it's going around drilling holes in the Martian surface and everything. Yeah, that's the way probes work. That's part of their job. That's what they do. But what if we're looking at robotics on a much higher level than what we have? We don't know what these things can do and what they are put there for and what their true purpose is. That's kind of scary to think about too.
Right.
What's going on with that?
So you were talking about orbs and drones following planes and stuff. So here's a picture I found, and I'm assuming that it's real. I don't know 100%, but it looks like it to me.
The Foo Fighters.
The Foo Fighters, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. They've never found out exactly what that is. And there has been speculation it was something very much like St. Elmo's fire. But no, St. Elmo's fire doesn't work that way. It will. When you see St. Elmo's fire, it is basically static electricity on metal. It doesn't make a ball like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It doesn't actually work that way. And there's been a lot of speculation that what that might have been was sort of some type of alien probes that we're watching. Let me say this right quick, and I'm gonna throw this out for you to think about, Gerald. We have drones, okay? And we have drones that would have wings on them, propellers, whatever, how you make them. And some of them have bombs on them. They have cameras and all this other stuff on them. We have drones. Now think about that just a moment. That's our cutting edge, supposed to be our cutting edge technology. And I've always said this before, and I'll stick by it. Whatever we have in public domain as technology, the government is probably 100 or so years ahead of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Now take that and think about an alien race. How many thousands of years they would be ahead of us in technology. That's scary when you think about it.
Absolutely. I mean, if they're able to fly around our jets and our planes and not crash into them, and I mean, outmaneuver them and all kinds of stuff, whether they're flying saucers or UFOs, whatever you want to call them, I'm considering these orbs or drones that we've been watching tonight.
Monica says we need to remember the music band, the Foo Fighters. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I like
that's where they got their name. Yeah.
So here's 3 of them.
That's true, though, Gerald. We're dealing with something. We may be dealing with something we just can't really grasp. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's what you talk about these other UFOs, when that's what we were talking about at the beginning of the program, looking up, seeing things. Some of these, like the Tic Tac UFOs, and some of these other things, you could not have a living occupant inside of these things doing the things that they do. Okay, the inertia alone would turn you into liquid. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, at least not living.
So what if these are not man, but they are some type of probes or drones? Robotic type drones. That makes sense when you think about it. And that would be the only thing that could survive these great turns and angles and speeds that you see some of these UFOs doing, because we know it's not humanly possible to survive something like that. That's just like you being in an automobile going 600 miles an hour that suddenly stops on a dime. You're not going to stop. You're going to go through that vehicle. You know what happens? That's what happens in automobile wrecks. Okay. You keep moving at 600 miles an hour. That's the problem. And you could not, with some of these things, the maneuvers that they're doing, would be impossible to live through. But what if you didn't have to worry about that if it's a robot?
Right. Yeah, the bad thing about G-Force is that even if you're strapped in, like our fighter jets or our pilots are strapped in, if you make sudden moves and stops, your body, since it's harnessed, might be okay, but your internal organs and especially your brain is not.
Yeah. They have the, what do they call that when you pass out and lose consciousness? They've got a name for it.
You have blackout, but there's different levels. You have blackout where you just kind of faint in your body after you lose your G-force and you come back, you know, your body starts coming back, taking over. But there's red out, white out. I mean, there's all kinds. Of red out's really bad. And there's a level even higher than that, because red out, your blood and your organs are starting to shut down.
It's very much like diving in very deep, depths.
Yes.
You have to watch out for the bends coming back up, because it can put air bubbles in your blood system. You know, the human body is not made to take certain things like that. You know, like so many G-force. You remember that old ride that used to be at the carnival? You remember the wheel that you stood on?
Yep.
And it would go around and you couldn't lift your leg and all that. Was not even just a little, maybe a quarter of a G. It wasn't nothing.
That wasn't nothing, but you know how hard it was to get your arms and legs off of the wall to fight the centrifugal force.
That's right.
Here's another picture of what I found. It was a zoom in of what we were talking about, these orbs or whatever, shiny objects floating through the air. Now, the more I zoom in, the more pixelated it get, but you can see light on it. You can see darkness and shadow.
That's very much like what I saw that day I was describing, although it was tumbling, you know, it was tumbling too. But it was up like that in the height of it. I could see it clearly, but it was incredibly fast. I couldn't see all, it was just like seeing an image in a flash of lightning. You don't get a chance to really look at it. You catch a little bit of what it is, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you want to see more, definitely. But there's some weird stuff going on. Absolutely.
So this was a screen capture off of a video, and if you look it up, that's a rabbit hole to go down. There's just tons and tons of videos of people catching these and posting them online now. But the funny thing is these pictures and some of these videos, they're in threes. This is like around those planes.
Yeah, sort of like a formation.
Yeah, so it's weird how they're
jets that made the echelon, formation.
And they're usually spinning around an object, like we saw at those planes. And that reminds me of like a CAT scan, or like the medical devices when we X-ray deep into our body. It goes around and round, and that's what these orbs and stuff do. They circle. So are they scanning and taking X-rays and looking inside and grabbing data?
Or it may be very much like radar, Gerald. It's getting images off of this thing, like sonar and radar does. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It picks up, and maybe these things may be emitting some type of vibrational sound that we don't pick up on, but it's giving them images of what you want. That's how a probe would work. You know what I'm saying? To a certain extent, it would send you back images and radar and sonar type images that would come through.
Yeah, so the Foo Fighter picture that we showed, there was 3 of them going around the plane. The Blue Angels picture that we showed, the jets, there was 3 of them going around. And if anybody's seen the video from the Malaysia 7 or 370 disappearance, they got a video of three white objects, three orbs or drones going around it, and then it disappears. Have you seen that video?
Well, now that famous picture of the Foo Fighters was taken from another plane, of course, above it. I think they were coming back from a bombing run or something like that. But this stuff still goes on, Gerald. It's hushed up though by the airlines. They won't let them talk about it. But this happens, I think, on a daily, almost a daily basis that they see UFOs, and I'm just putting that in a broad term. UFOs can look in all kind of different ways. Okay, they have many different shapes and all that stuff. But the point I'm making is they do not allow them to talk about these things. If you talk about it, you could lose your job or get demoted or whatever. It is hushed up. There is a fear in aviation about mentioning anything like these things, like Foo Fighters and all that. It is still going on. It didn't stop in World War II. Okay, it is still happening.
Right, absolutely, it is. Like I said, if you've seen do any digging on the internet and you look up the Malaysia missing flight 370, there is three drones, or just like we're talking about, three of them circling around it. Then all of a sudden you get this big black or white flash, and then the airplane disappears.
Well, Monica here is a good point, and it makes me think about that too. What if some of this is human technology given to us by aliens? There's a lot of talk about that going on, and I think without a doubt, the governments of the world are in league with some of these things, demonic, whatever name you want to call them, aliens or whatever. And I think they are very demonic in that respect. But if if they've got sort of dark contracts and agreements with them, they're getting technology from them and probably using this technology without a doubt on their own people, us. They would not stop at that. They wouldn't hesitate to do that.
Right.
And here's another thing. There are certain laws in place, constitutional laws, that keep you from spying on people. Supposedly, your government's not supposed to spy on you without a reason. And it has to usually get court-ordered permission to do that. But what if they're beating that with these probes? See what I'm saying? They don't need to do that. They can use the probes. They can hear what you're doing. They can see what you're doing. These guys can almost know what you're thinking. And, we've talked before, Gerald, about they've got technology that go into your dreams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Subconscious. That's wild when you think about it. And I know without a doubt there is technology, and I've seen this my own self. They have technology that listens through walls.
Yep, absolutely they do.
Absolutely, yeah. And if they can listen through walls, they can see through walls too. And that may be what some of these things are doing. These may not be run by aliens. They may be run by our government. Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's look at all the movies and stuff that they've spied through our walls and stuff. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger and The Eraser, and there's always speculation that that's why they got rid of lead paint in the U.S. for houses, that they could not penetrate and look inside our houses if we had lead paint in our rooms and on the outside of our houses.
Well, there's talk of them having miniature drones that look like flies and mosquitoes that they can send into you and get blood samples from you. They get your DNA without you knowing it. Okay. That sounds far-fetched, folks, but this is real stuff. This is a real thing that's going on. They've got this stuff. This technology does exist. And like I said just a few minutes ago, whatever you've got in the public domain, they've got 100 years ahead of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. If not, then I'm being sort of holding back on that. It may be more than 100 years. Okay. But anyway, they've got it. And I think they've got it. They've got a lot of technology from what alien sources. Absolutely. Because I'm going to tell you something about these alien sources right quick, okay? They do not, I'm going to tell you what, they're not the good guys. I don't see how you can say that. They're not here to help us. They're not here to do anything about our situation. I don't care what you say. They're not savior brothers from space, okay? There's something else going on here. And it's not good. It's very dark and downright demonic. Okay, without a doubt. And it would not surprise me if they're not utilizing, and they give certain things, certain technology to human beings, just like you would give candy to a kid. And why you do that? To control that kid sometimes, or to keep him happy, or to work on his emotions. That's what they're doing to us. And they're giving us a little bit at a time, but they're giving us the actual things that will eventually destroy us if we're not careful.
Right.
And I think that's their main goal. I think that's their imminent execution. They want to get rid of us and let us do it on our own for us. That's the way the demonic works. It always utilizes you to do its dirty work for it.
Yep. I truly believe, and I think Jane brings this up quite a bit, that there actually is a good and bad of every civilization, every species. So there might be ones that are out to harm us and out to study us and do all this stuff that we're talking about. But I also believe there's probably some good extraterrestrials or ETs that are watching out for us, trying to help us.
That would be the angels. That would be the force for good.
Well, there's always good and evil, so or dark and light. So I'm assuming that works with ETs also. I don't know. That's just our thoughts.
Well, you've always got that balance in the universe, the negative and the positive. There are positive things out there working for good, but there are also some negative things working for bad. That's the way that goes. Right. You've got that balance. But right now, the balance is off kilter. You've got more negative working, you know what I'm saying, than what's going on. One day, though, it's going to shift. I think it's shifting now to the positive, to overwhelm that darkness. In other words, where there is light, there is no room for dark.
Right. Yep. Darkness cannot hide in the light. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I think you've got forces for good and bad. But I'm just saying, a lot of people paint these things as being the saviors. They're going to save mankind and all that. But I think you're looking at the wrong equation. I mean, I don't see these guys probing people and sending probes out to watch us. And I don't see that as good. That's more of the actions of the bad guys.
Right.
To me. And John Keel felt the same way. That when you look at the alien equation, you got to look at it as being almost and it is a demonic type thing going on. It is evil, inherently evil in its conception and what it's doing to the human race. I mean, going around mutilating animals and doing all this other stuff. And I think the government is in on this. That's the bad part of it. It's bad enough that you got these negative forces, but then you got people helping them.
Yeah, I mean, that all goes back to, people say that Eisenhower made a deal and contract with the ETs and, they were allowed to abduct, so many people per year or whatever. And evidently I don't know if there's still a contract or a deal with the government, but I'm assuming there is some good stuff. I mean, we've had technology that was either backward engineered or was actually technology given to us by that deal or contract that's how we have stuff in aluminum and stuff in the space program that then later filters on down to us. When they're done with it, they give it to the regular people in society to use. That benefits us.
Well, Gerald, when you're making a deal, though, you got to be careful you're not making a deal with the devil. You know what I mean? You got to be careful. And I think, like I said earlier, that some of these forces give us things to destroy ourselves with, without a doubt. And I think if the government has some of this stuff and the capabilities with the drones and all that, here's the thing that you got to look at. And here's kind of disturbing when you think about it. Modern military warfare is going robotic. Okay. And when that happens, you're going to be living in the age of the Terminator. Okay. Yeah. And you're going to have AI running everything. And what's going to happen one day when it says, oh, well, we don't need people anymore. We can take over and do what we want to do. We don't need you anymore. By the way, you puny little humans, you don't live long. You wear out too fast. We don't. We exist forever. We're immortal. We can repair ourselves into infinity.
Right. I mean,
we're better than you. We're smarter. We're stronger. We're immortal, and you are not. We are gods, and you are not. You are irrelevant.
I mean, that's kind of where we end up being, when we watch the Terminator, the robots take over and have wars with us. And then we get into the movies like iRobot, where they become sentient and they're able to think and have emotions and do stuff on their own. Then now we have Elon Musk releasing robots that look exactly like the ones that are in iRobot. So it kind of makes me leery of what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you know what? Remember the story of the Terminator. When did all this begin? When Operation Skynet became operational. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Skynet was very much like what you got now with Elon Musk. What?
Yeah, Starlink.
Mm-hmm.
So not only does Elon have Starlink up there, which we get from the Terminator, also robots he's introducing, which we get from Terminator or iRobot movies. So it's like, okay, there's two things that Elon and plus the brain chip.
Well, think for a minute, Gerald. And I'm sure the CIA and FBI is listening to this program right now. If you are, you're going to enjoy this, boys. Okay. Listen to this. What if I hacked into Starlink tomorrow and took it over? I could probably extort millions and billions of dollars for them to get it back. Think about that a minute. I would have absolute power almost if I could hack into Starlink and take it over. And somebody's going to probably try that. You wait and see.
I would like to hack into Alexa or somebody, and every time I do a search, Midwest Night Watchers and Hunting the Shadows comes up on every search result.
That would be neat. Yeah. And it could be done. Hey, Gerald, here's the thing about it. I've actually talked to programmers and computer experts. I am actually kin to one of them by marriage. There was one of them premier producers of programs and stuff. He worked on the Beast. You've heard of the Beast, which is that big computer in Belgium. He worked on that thing and told them how. But anyway, there are hackers out there. They can do amazing things. They can blow your mind. They can even they have programs. They can even turn your computer back on when you turn it off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they can do stuff that will blow your mind. Don't think it's that far-fetched. And that's the part of modern warfare, Gerald, is to be able to take down what? Power lines, all these other power nets and everything else. That's how you attack a country first. You go after its what? Computers. You go after its systems. Take them down, and you create chaos, and you weaken your enemy greatly. That's how you're going to see more warfare going on in this world. It's going to be that way. And here's the thing about it. Once upon a time, you could talk about a war that's happening over here. It doesn't affect you at all. But that's not going to be the case in the future. Every war in the future is going to come home to you and affect you personally on a personal basis. And that's what the future of war is.
Absolutely. The more technology that's involved in this stuff, the more programmers or hackers are able to do stuff, and our government obviously controls the media and the internet. So I mean, why wouldn't they do that? And why wouldn't other governments be doing the same thing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I'll tell you what, that's why we need the true full armor of God coming up on us. Okay. We need to really utilize that and work on it, because in the future, we're not gonna be left out of the things that are gonna happen. It's gonna come home to us one on one on a personal basis. We're gonna be involved in this. It's not gonna be something over there somewhere or something over there that doesn't bother. We're gonna all be involved in this, whether we want to be or not.
Yep.
And that's where it's coming down to. And we better be ready physically, mentally, and spiritually. We better be
Absolutely.
ready. The time to get ready is now, not tomorrow, not next week. Now. That's where you get to start working on it now, because this stuff's gonna happen. And I'm gonna tell you what, with these things, here's the things that's the scariest part of all, Gerald. These things are in the hands of governments. That's where your destiny and your fate lies, in the hands of governments. That's scary right there. Think about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, they have so much control now, and we've gave them this control. I mean, how many times have you used any kind of social app or download a program on your computer? You're always signing or saying, okay, I agree to whatever terms, but we don't actually read the terms. We don't actually read terms on our credit card policies or anything else that we give them power over.
Gerald, think about the biggest spyware out of all out there. That's TikTok. China is spying on all of us with TikTok. Now, that is a well-known fact. It's not even allowed to be on a government phone, by the way. So what does that tell you? TikTok's one of the biggest things. And if they're using TikTok, hey, they're using all the rest of them.
Well,
You have no privacy anymore. They know I could probably, girl, go on the dark web and find out what size shorts you wear. You know what I'm saying? I could go in there and find out everything about you that I want to find out. You have no privacy at all. None of you do. It's gone. Your privacy is a past tense thing. It
right.
is gone for good.
Well,
They got your social security number. They got everything. Okay, they got it all.
Right. I mean, every time you sign up online, you create an account with whatever social media, whatever program online, or however you're doing it, whether it's your bank account, whether it's your doctor, whatever. They have all the information they need. They have your age, they have your social security number, they have your phone number if you're still using landline or cell phone.
They got your passwords. They got every bit of it.
Yeah, and we give that up freely because we say, okay, I'm going to trust this site. But you know what? How many times have you seen hackers get into that? How many times have you Googled something and all of a sudden ads pop up on your social media that you're looking up, suggesting the exact same thing that you were just looking for? Sometimes it's even as creepy as me and my wife, Jane Chiro, talking about something, then all of a sudden it shows up on our Facebook. We didn't even Google it. We're just talking about it.
I've heard a lot of people say, I'm gonna go off the grid. I'm gonna hide. They'll never find me. They'll find you. Okay. They can find you. Did you, when you're riding down the road tomorrow, you're on, especially if you're on the interstate, okay? You are being spied on. They're getting your tag number. They're getting your facial recognition thing going on here, okay? They know exactly where. Look at that case where that guy supposedly killed all those college students, and they tracked him across the country with what? Interstate cameras.
Right.
They can find you anywhere they want to. You're not going to be able to hide. You cannot hide in the future. There's no hiding place.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Somebody's
And
always
everything you do is
watching.
everything you shop for, they know what you're doing. They're looking for. It is. It's wild.
And where did we first hear that? 1984, Big Brother.
Freedom Lover said they hunted me down, destroyed my relationship with my family. Oh yeah, they know how. Oh yeah, they know how to do it. They can burn you down. It's called a burn notice. Okay. When the CIA gets ready to get rid of you, that's why when they tried to recruit me, there was absolutely nothing I was going to do with that. Okay. But when they put a burn notice out on you, the only way out of the CIA is through the morgue. They burn you down. They can burn you so far down that you ain't nothing but ashes left, buddy. And by that means they can take away your identity. They can take your bank account. They can destroy you from top to bottom until there's nothing left. Mm-hmm.
They got us coming and going, that's for sure, from birth, and whether it's your birth certificate or your social security number that they give you before you enter the school system. And I mean, my gosh, you have so many IDs on you right now. I mean, look at all your credit card numbers, your bank account numbers, you have your land, your house has numbers attached to the county and state you live in.
Well, let me say this, and I'm not trying to be paranoid here. Okay, I am the last person to be paranoid. All right, I've been there. Well, let me say this: ever since that time they contacted me, weird things have happened in my life. I'm not talking about on a paranormal basis here. I'm talking about weird other stuff. I see more government cars than I ever seen before. They buzz my house. I've had black helicopters over my house. The whole works, folks. Okay. My life has not been the same since then. And if these things ever get on your case, you're pretty well done, I think, in some ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not gonna come out good. It's never that's the way these spooks work. You know?
I mean, there's so many clandestine agencies out there. You don't know who's working for who or who represents who. I mean, if they're just like we talked about the watchers, they know everything about you. They know your habits. They know your travel plans. If you go to work the same way every day, they know it, especially if they're watching you and you're on their radar. You're not going to hide. You're not going to be a Tom Cruise or any of these people that you know and be able to fight them and get away from them. If they want you, they got you. Sad to say it, but it's true.
Remember what Jesus said in the Bible, and it's very true to this day. And that's a very interesting point that an ancient book can still teach you things. But here's what he said, and it makes perfect sense. He said, when you're going to go do something or you got something planned, don't tell it. Just go ahead and do it. Because this is what he said, the enemy is always listening. Don't let your plans be known. It's in the Bible. I'm not making this up. Okay. That's what he told his disciples. Don't let your plans be known. Keep it to yourself. Because even then, think about that, Gerald. 2,000 years ago, there was no privacy. Okay. The Romans soldiers were watching you constantly. Everywhere you went, they had you check for your papers. I guess you had to have some kind of thing that proves that you were a Roman citizen or whatever. I mean, you were being watched 2,000 years ago. Okay. They just got better with the technology now.
Yep. So just like we said earlier, I mean, you got the Holy Trinity, you got your mind, body, and soul, and it's up to you to protect your heart and your soul and your mind and your body physically. So that is your job. And of course, you can have help by whatever creator you believe in. I mean, for me personally, it's Jesus Christ. So I give my heart and soul to Jesus, but that's up to each individual to decide who their creator is or what their belief system is. But I mean, How many times have you heard people talk about getting into trouble or whether it's paranormal or whatever, and they invoke the name of Jesus?
Oh yeah, very, very powerful, Gerald. It works. I don't tell people anything don't work. I told that to somebody the other day. I'm not gonna tell you something don't work. I've seen it work, and therefore I know it works. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna tell you anything that don't work, but you can't do it on your own. No, you got to have help. You got to have that backup power to it. You know what I'm saying? That's where faith comes in. But we got to remember something dealing with all of this, okay? We were given a promise thousands of years ago by our creator. Our creator, when your creator says something, he don't go back on it. It's perfect. It's a promise. You can take it to the bank. It's better than gold, okay? And he said this, he promised something, Gerald. We always keep our eyes on this promise. He said that everything secret now will one day be revealed. And that will take away the power of the evil powers that are out there, and it will take away the power of the governments when that happens. You understand? He said the day is coming when what you whisper in the closets will be proclaimed upon the housetops. Right. Everything now that is secret one day will be revealed, and then you will know all. And that's a promise.
Yep.
But that's what George Washington said. I read his letter. George Washington was a brilliant man, by the way. He don't get enough credit. They brag on Abraham Lincoln. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, I'm sorry, could not hold a candle to George Washington, okay? That guy was smart. And he was very religious, okay? But let me say what he said. He said, governments cannot operate without secrecy. How very true that is. That's where their power lies. That's why they're never going to give you disclosure. You're not going to get disclosure from those guys because they'd have to give up their power to do that. They'd have to give up their secrets. They're not going to do that. That would be, and of course, it makes perfect sense. You're not going to be, that would be a dumb thing to do. That would be dumb. And they're not going to go that route. So don't look for that to happen. Absolutely not. And they're behind a lot of insanity. Gerald and I were talking about this before the show tonight, and we're going to have to do some more research on this. But they were behind a lot of insidious stuff going on when we were in school. Grade school on up, okay? What's going on with that? They're behind a lot of things that you don't really realize. But what's going on in this world is scary, but it is fascinating too in a way. It's like watching a snake eat something. It's fascinating. It's scary to look at, but it's fascinating too. It's like watching a train wreck, girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't take your eyes off of it.
Well, the more and more technology you have, and that's what's so nice about shows like ours and other people's, that we see other people's stories and what's going on with them, and people bring up stuff, like the tests in schools and social security numbers, and people watching this all the time. You start hearing these little tidbits, and as this kind of goes in line with what you're saying, eventually all the secrets will come out. But they're coming out slowly now. They're starting to come out more and more because people are talking, and we're able to communicate more and more across the whole world.
Let me tell you something about that, Gerald. I don't mean to interrupt you. Let me tell you something about that since you brought that up. We are being given the knowledge that I think we're being given the insights into these things. The secrets are being revealed to us, not by the bad guys, but by the good guys. I think our creator is letting us have these wake up calls. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
These little things that we get. I believe he's behind that. And I believe he has to do it in this way, that it has to be a little bit at a time, because you could really screw things up if it came all out at once. You know what I'm saying? And I believe we're just getting these little things, as time goes on. I think it's the good guy or the good force in this world, in this universe, is what's giving us these secrets or letting us see some of these insights that you see in movies, books, and stuff. There's a force for good in this universe, and it's working constantly in the background, just like the forces of bad are. So are the forces of good. But here's the good thing about it, the force of good is going to win in the end. And they got more guys on their side than the bad guys. Okay. We can look at that way. But you're very right. You're very true on that respect. We're being given a little bit of time, but by the good guy, the good force is doing that, not the bad force. The bad force is not going to give away their plans.
Yep. Well, we kind of got off track on the silver balls and the drones and stuff, but it was a good talk anyway.
I just hope I don't get hit with one.
You
never know. But it's interesting, the things that that we've talked about so many times that come out of the sky. You have different kind of rainfalls and fish and stuff like that. And I think Jessica Jones did a show on meat. I think you and her did a show on meat fall.
Yep.
Rainfall thing. Yeah.
Yep.
That's weird too. Where did that meat come from? That's very strange.
We speculated that it either came from an airship or some kind of unexplained UFO or whatever you want to call it, that somehow it got dropped out of the sky.
Maybe it was leftovers from the feast of the gods.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Maybe they were throwing stuff off their table for us.
Giving the dogs a little scraps.
There you go. Give the dogs some scraps to eat here. And maybe that's where these spheres are coming from too. You never know. Maybe they're rolling off the table of the gods or something like that up there. And they're coming down like this. But keep looking up, that's the score on this. It's like Gerald always says, you got to keep looking up here, because you never know. You never know what you're going to see or what's going to come down,
Right. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, you got to stay vigilant. I mean, even the Bible says there will be signs in the skies. I mean, it doesn't tell us exactly what these signs are that I know of. I mean, I have my suspicions what the signs are, but there is stuff happening all around us, whether we can visibly see it or sometimes we get a glimpse, like our show, Piercing the Veil. I mean, once in a while you get a glimpse into that. And so we always say, keep looking up. And Jane always says, like what we talked about tonight, keep your vibrations high, which means protect yourself.
Well, another thing, girl, having, in the book of Revelations and all that stuff, there's a lot of stuff going on in the skies, signs in the heavens, as they call it. And it's a good idea to keep your eye on the sky, because you never know what you may see. But there's going to be a lot of action up there, definitely, over as time goes on. And without a doubt, it's going to be a good idea to keep an eye on the sky.
Absolutely.
But hopefully we're not getting probed, but we may be on a regular basis here.
That would be a bad day.
Yeah. But I mean, that is weird, like I talked about earlier, these things being these little, and these are like the ones that they're describing, they're about like probably a little bit bigger than a grapefruit, size. And these things are seen flying around buildings and going by windows. And I'm talking about in New York, Chicago, places like that. They're going by high rises and all that stuff. They're seeing a lot of, what the heck is that, And here's one more thing. One of these things, we're talking about disclosure here. And I think that we're getting sort of a heavenly disclosure thing going on here. In the movie They Live, you see one of these probes. Remember, he shoots one with a shotgun, blows it up. Remember that?
Yep.
So there you go. I mean, that's some wild stuff going on. But that's being seen. Supposedly these things are seen in real time and not in a movie. But that's a perfect spying thing. If you look at it that way, that's the perfect way to spy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense. Well, I think that's about all we're going to do on the spheres tonight. You want to give a wrap up thing on what you think about what your opinion is on what's going on with these spheres and probes and whatever we want to call them?
Well, I think as far as the Betts family, I believe that is some kind of ET drone or something that either fell to Earth or was planted on our landscape, to track it. And they just happened to find it, and maybe the fire damaged it. They had that wildfire, so maybe it damaged it. But I don't know. I mean, you got to watch out for space junk also, and you got to watch out for everybody that we talked about, whether it's meteorites or this stuff falling out of the sky. So like Jessica and you always say, keep your head on a swivel and keep looking up, and keep your vibrations high and keep yourself protected.
Got to watch out for that yellow ice too, right? You can get hit with some of that. The yellow ice, by the way, is the latrines being emptied on the airplanes. It comes down as yellow ice. But anyway, got to watch out for that too. Something all the time. Something always, you got to look for me. Here's the thing about it. I'll wrap it up with this. You keep an eye on the sky, but remember, the sky may have an eye on you. Okay. That's the way that goes. Absolutely. But this has been a fascinating program tonight. Real good stuff. Listen, I enjoyed it. And although we got off track a little bit, but that's okay. We never know where the road less traveled is going to end up at, There you go. That's the thing about it. It's less traveled. You never know where you're going.
Yep.
Well, appreciate you all being here tonight. It's been an very interesting show. Another one for the books here, definitely. And you want to tell everyone what you've got planned this week here, Gerald?
I have nothing.
Talk about your store a little bit too, okay?
All right. Yeah, we have a Printful store. I'm sorry, not plentiful, even though there is lots of stuff in there. It's Printful. And so you go to Midwest Night Watchers at printful.me. I'm sure Jane or somebody will put it up in chat for us. And we have t-shirts and hats and cups and everything of our logos. And we have some Christmas stuff in there that happens to be whether it's our farm animals, our favorite farm animals, or some cryptids. So we got that going on. And I don't think we have anybody planned for this Sunday. We might be taking this Sunday off. So I have nothing until I come back on with you.
All right. Well, that's good. You might need to recharge the old batteries a little bit there. And there's a link to your show, to your store there.
Yes.
Everybody check that out. And don't forget, check that out because you may be looking for my Christmas presents there. Okay.
That's right.
There you go. And my show, well, of course, Hunting the Shadows, Wednesday night, 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think Friday night on Paranormal Point of View, we're going to have Brown Dwarf as a guest. So we're going to talk about what's going on in the city of Lost Angels. Okay.
And there you go.
It's not Los Angeles anymore. It's Lost Angels. Okay. Well, we're going to be talking about that, and we'll see where that goes. And next week, I think I've got lined up next week. Danielle Diva Borzon, the Duchess, will be my guest.
Nice.
She's actually supposed to be a direct descendant of Dracula. We're going to be talking about that. And then I've got Dacre Stoker coming back up again on my program in about 2 weeks here. I think it's the first week of December. So he's gonna come back, and when I get him back on, we're gonna go into some paranormal stuff here.
Oh yeah.
We're going deep into some paranormal stuff, absolutely. And we're gonna pick his brain for about an hour or so, see how that goes. So be watching for that. We got some special stuff coming up. Gerald has, and so do I. So keep an eye on us. And we appreciate you being here tonight. It has been fascinating as always. Yes, Danielle Diva is an excellent. Yeah, I love to hear her talk. Yeah, I think you had her on one time, didn't you, Joe?
Yeah, we had her on, and she has a book. She has more than one now. She has one on Vlad, her ancestry and with Dracula, but she also had one on a healing springs up in Canada. And her and her mother and some friends took a road trip up there where you actually go into the springs and you're healed. So that was an interesting story about lost time and misdirection and going into the Miracle Springs in Canada.
I'll have to talk to her about that. Definitely, I want to hear about that book. I definitely want to hear about her connection with Dracula. That's very interesting. Absolutely, make some good conversation. So I'm looking forward to that. And so you keep watching here. Keep watching Midwest Night Watchers with the Night Owl Lounge and Piercing the Veil and Shiro Sounds. Keep checking all those. Keep checking out our good friend Jessica Jones. And she's always good as the Cryptid Huntress. Keep an eye on her. She's always got some good shows going on. And keep an eye on Hunting the Shadows. Who knows what may pop up on there next. So there you go.
And don't
Appreciate you all being here tonight.
Don't forget to mention your consulting service for anybody that needs help.
Oh yeah. Well, I do have a. I forgot about that. I do have a new paranormal consultation service, Carol Paranormal Consultant Service. If any of you need to talk, if you need to talk to anybody, I had somebody call me the other day. Actually, it was a interesting case going on with that. And if you need any kind of paranormal help, any kind of questions, whatever you want, or you just want to tell me a story, you want to share something with me, please feel free to get in contact with me at DennisWCarroll.com. That's DennisWCarroll.com. You can get in touch through my website, or you can get in touch directly with me through DennisWCarroll@gmail.com. Okay, and you can also get Gerald. What's your Gmail there, Gerald?
Yeah, I think it's in the chat. It's Midwest Night Watchers at gmail.com. So just like Dennis, if you have any questions specific to us or just a story, or you want to tell us about cryptids, UFOs, any kind of paranormal, just kind of like what Dennis is. And I mean, anything that I get, I share with Dennis. You know, especially if you tell me to, or if you want me to, we can read your stories online and keep you anonymous, or we can tell your first name only, or whatever, however you want to do it. Just get a hold of us. We're always here.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything. You always remember that you can. These are your podcasts too. You have a voice here, okay? But we will guard your voice. You know, we're very, very good about that. We keep that confidentiality foremost in all things, okay? So don't worry, we're looking out for you that way, okay? But don't ever worry about that. We'll never mention anything on the air or anything about what you've done unless you give us permission to do so, okay? Absolutely. So it's all confidential, but we want you to have a voice. It's very important that you have a voice in all these things, okay? And that's what these podcasts are all about. It's not just feeding information to you and conjectures on this stuff. It's also getting feedback from you. And that's important. We don't want me and Gerald don't want to sit here and listen to crickets, okay?
Nah.
we want some feedback from you, okay? We love that. That's what we're here for. Your voice counts. You are important. And we appreciate everything you do for us, your support, your time and effort, and you're sticking with us and being family with us. That's important and very much loved by us. Okay, so don't ever forget that. And we appreciate you being here tonight. This has been a great show, and we look forward to when we get together again with you. And until then, remember what I always say: non tambo mala, fear no evil. And Godspeed, Gerald. What you got to say?
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And we've been watching everybody in chat. And I've tried to say hi to everybody. And Bounty Hunter just asked what you just talked about any conversation with us does stay private unless it's something you tell us to share. And then we have, whether you actually want to share your name or just stay anonymous. So it's up to you, whatever you feel like. And thank you all for coming.
Absolutely. Until we get together again, Godspeed and via con Dios.